Every time I do a video that talks about something around the area of self-compassion, dare I say self-love, I get two extreme responses. This is all wishy-washy, new age, psychological BS, or thank you, that video really, 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 really helped me. So let's talk about it. Isn't that interesting that some people will look at this and say, this is not our philosophy. What are you talking about? All this self-love, self-compassion, self-this and self-that. We're not interested in ourselves. We're interested in serving Srila Prabhupada. We're interested in serving Krishna. Then I get this other feedback, which was, that was exactly what I needed to hear. That helped me so much because I'm so down on myself, because I'm not perfect. And I'm so guilty because I don't always follow perfectly. It's interesting, right? And I don't always know what kind of feedback I'm going to get. I mean, sometimes I sense that I'm onto something because I know it's an issue that affects a lot of devotees. But how I present it and how many devotees it affects, I don't know. And sometimes I'm surprised at the numbers of people who watch certain videos and the positive responses I get. Because sometimes I do a video and I think, wow, this is the one. And it's like nothing. So what I'm finding is this issue of self-love, self-acceptance is extremely important for many, many, many devotees. And if you talk to counselors, devotee counselors, coaches, therapists, and so forth, they will all tell you, yes, this is a huge issue. It's a huge issue outside of spiritual circles, but often a bigger issue inside of spiritual circles because the demands are higher, the demands are greater for us, and therefore, naturally, the guilt, the shame more easily arises because we feel that I'm letting down my spiritual master. I'm letting down Srila Prabhupada. I could be better, but somehow or other, I don't know how to do better, or somehow or other, I'm too weak to do better. And then we have to live with ourselves, that self who in our mind is failing. And now we're living with this self who is failing, and we don't like that self. And when you don't like somebody, you're not nice to somebody. So if you don't like yourself, you're not going to be nice to yourself. And what are you going to do? You're going to have negative thoughts about yourself. Not healthy. You may even do what we say, what we call beat yourself up. You're so bad, you're so stupid, you're so this or so that. Now, when I've analyzed this, when I've looked at this, I came across things that Prabhupada said, which are within the context of self-compassion, such as this quote. If someone goes out and takes a knife, goes, let's say, to the forest, takes a knife and cuts their throat, who can stop them? If you want to kill yourself, who can stop them? What was the context? Prabhupada was asked, what does it mean to be envious of yourself? Because being envious of yourself it's a kind of a strange idea. Usually we're envious of another person because they have what we want. But to be envious of yourself, you already have something, so how could you be envious of what you have? What we find out in Sanskrit, often the word envy means hatred. It often means violence. So you're being hateful or violent to yourself because, in Prabhupada's words, I'm paraphrasing, because you have an opportunity to be Krishna conscious, but you don't take it. Instead, you misuse it. So you should be compassionate. You should be kind upon yourself, and therefore give yourself Krishna consciousness. Now, someone might say, well, that's not exactly what you're saying. It's not exactly in the terms of the psychology that you're talking about beating oneself up and so on and so forth. But still, that is the cure for beating oneself up, to be compassionate, to be kind, to give yourself Krishna consciousness. If you're beating yourself up, you're in a horrible position to take Krishna consciousness because you think, what is the use? I'm so bad. Why even try? I will never be good. I will never be enough. My spiritual master will always think there's something wrong with me, etc., etc. Now, in analyzing this according to the three modes of nature, I think it becomes obvious that that kind of thinking is very Thomasic, because anything which is Thomasic has an element of craziness, and this is a kind of crazy way of thinking. Just looked at it from a clinical perspective, it's not a healthy way to think, to berate yourself. Now, if you're going out murdering people every day and thinking, well, I shouldn't feel guilty, yeah, that's different, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about devotees who are trying their best but falling short of what they think they should be or what they would like to be or what they believe Srila Prabhupada wants them to be or not even believe what Prabhupada wants them to be. And they're smashing themselves down. What's the use? I'm so bad. The result of that generally is that they lose their enthusiasm for bhakti. That's a symptom of ignorance. Ignorance causes one to lose enthusiasm spiritually. It's the furthest away from the transcendence. It's the furthest away from Sattva-guna. So there's this feeling, well, I shouldn't feel good about myself because I'm not good. And so I would feel guilty to feel good about myself unless I'm good. That has truth. But it's not the way Prabhupada was dealing with us, and it's not the way he was thinking about us. He wanted us to do our best and always be striving to do our best, but not killing ourselves over the fact that maybe our best is not as good as we'd like it to be. He never made us feel that way, and I think this is extremely important. I understand that psychology. I've been there. We've all been there to one degree or another. It's just when it gets very severe, it becomes problematic. But the point is, Prabhupada never taught us to think that way. He doesn't want us to think that way. Yes, if you've done something wrong, you should regret it. You should try to improve yourself. There's no question. But to eternally bask in this Thomasic, I'm useless, I'm horrible, I'll never be good enough, I'll never be perfect. I've done so many things wrong, I can't forgive myself. How can I move forward in my spiritual life, remembering what I've done? This doesn't help. This is not the way Prabhupada wanted us to think. Prabhupada always wanted us to think in a more of a reparation mood. Okay, repair it, understand it, work on it, move forward, be kind upon yourself. Don't destroy yourself, because if you're not kind upon yourself, you will not be in a position where you can go further in Krishna consciousness. You will hold yourself down in the name of trying to be, guilt is kind of like trying to be a good person, because a good person would feel guilty if they did this. Okay, that's understood. But if you hold on to that guilt too deeply for too long, you can't move forward. And certainly that's not what Prabhupada wants you to do. He doesn't want you to bask in guilt in such a way that you can't move forward. So I just wanted to contextualize this idea because it is in Prabhupada's books. The last thing, and we've talked about this before, Prabhupada said the most important thing is to save yourself. If that isn't self-compassion, if that isn't self-love, I don't know what is. And if you don't want to save yourself, then even though Prabhupada wants to save you, it's not going to work because you have to want to do it yourself. He can do everything for you, but if you don't care, nothing's going to happen. Or if your spiritual master gives you everything, but you don't care, it doesn't matter. He can give you everything on a silver platter, but you have to care about yourself.